Ministers Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak resign from the government, with Mr Javid telling Boris Johnson, "You've lost my confidence." It follows a chaotic day for the Prime Minister, who faced claims he didn't tell the truth over what he knew about the Chris Pincher allegations. In a bombshell development tonight, two of the most senior ministers in his cabinet have handed in their notice. So what next for Boris Johnson? Well, there could be a dramatic evening ahead. Robert Peston will be here to talk through all the latest revelations and whether our Prime Minister's job is even tenable. Also tonight. Summer holiday plans lie in the balance as BA cancels more than 1,000 flights to avert airport chaos. Guilty of murder and manslaughter, the teenagers who killed a stranger, they compare to TV star Ant McPartlin. Well, Cameron Norrie head into the quarter-finals of Wimbledon as British fans keep their fingers crossed. And
Hi, Desmond.
So is me. What are you doing here?
So what kind of greeting is that?
remarkable and inspiring, we look back at the life of trailblazing actor Mona Hammond.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. Boris Johnson's leadership appears to be falling apart tonight after two dramatic and major resignations in just the past half an hour. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, and Health Secretary Sajid Javid have both quit, saying they've lost confidence in the Prime Minister. Mr Sunak said standards are worth fighting for. Mr Javid said the British people expect integrity from their government. The joint resignations came shortly after the Prime Minister was forced to make a humiliating apology over the latest political scandal affecting his government. In a moment, we'll have the details of today's dramatic events with our reporter, Shihab Khan. But first, we've got to go straight to political editor Robert Peston. Robert, any of this surprise you this evening?
Well, pretty much all of it surprises me because although the Prime Minister has been under tremendous pressure from his backbench MPs for a long time, and he's faced enormous criticism over, the illegal parties that took place behind me, over his stewardship of the economy, just over the last few days about his appointment as Deputy Chief Whip of an individual who has been accused of inappropriately touching colleagues. But despite all of that, no member of his cabinet publicly criticised him. We had one resignation a few days ago after those humiliating by-election losses of the party chairman, Oliver Dowden. But today, it is an absolute bombshell. I mean, Chancellor, in any government, the most important position other than the Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak's resignation on its own devastating. But just think about what we've been through over the past few years with COVID, and think about the challenges that the health service now faces, which means that the position of Health Secretary is arguably almost as important as that of Chancellor. So for Sajid Javid to resign at the same time. Now, I've been talking to Treasury sources. They say this is not a coordinated move, that the first they knew that the Health Secretary would be resigning was after after Rishi Sunak had put out his own statement. Now, that seems to me to raise a number of interesting possibilities. One is, given if this wasn't coordinated as a double act, who knows whether another member of the cabinet will resign. Now, let's get on to the importance here for the Prime Minister. We've got two senior ministers saying they have lost confidence in him. All history tells you that when a Chancellor resigns, we only have to go back, frankly, to the demise of Mrs Thatcher all those decades ago. When a Chancellor resigns, almost impossible for a Prime Minister to survive. Certainly not for more than a few weeks or months. But for two of his most senior ministers to resign simultaneously, well, if Boris Johnson can survive this, he can survive anything. But tonight, therefore, what will be happening is that Tory MPs will be working out what message to deliver to the Prime Minister. And a significant number of them will be saying he has to go, and he has to go now.
Well, this is quite a fast-moving story, as you know, Robert, and we never know what's going to happen in the next half an hour whilst we're on air. So we'll be sure to jump back into you and ask you some more questions if anything else should happen before 7:30. But, Robert, thanks very much for that. Well, as Robert said, it's been a day of quick-moving events over at Westminster. So let's give you a reminder of what's happened over the past few days. Here's Shihab Khan.
It is a Prime Minister in crisis. The most senior figures in his top team have resigned in protest over his leadership. The Chancellor and the Health Secretary both gone, as Boris Johnson's leadership now hangs in the balance. Rishi Sunak in his resignation letter said, "The public rightly expect government to be conducted properly, competently and seriously. I recognise this might be my last ministerial job, but I believe these standards are worth fighting for, and that is why I am resigning." Sajid Javid said it had been an enormous privilege to serve in this role, but I regret I can no longer continue in good conscience. It is over the Prime Minister's handling of what and when he was aware of the allegations about Chris Pincher, a story which has been changing almost every day. The government's position was blown apart this morning by a former top civil servant who said Number 10 hadn't been telling the truth.
I know that the senior official briefed the Prime Minister in person because that official told me so at the time. I think they need to come clean.
The Prime Minister responded, apologising for the way he dealt with that initial complaint.
I think it was a mistake, and I apologise for it. I think in hindsight it was the wrong thing to do. It was something that was only raised with me very cursorily, but I wish that we had, I in particular, had acted on it, and that he had not continued in government, because he then went on, I'm afraid, to behave, as far as we can see, according to the allegations that we have, very, very badly. And I'm sorry for those who've been badly affected by it.
But some of his cabinet had been arguing rather different lines in the last few days. Grant Shapps, why does the government keep changing its story on this? This trust are Number 10 lying to us? Can the public trust the government, Nadeem Zahawi? Following allegations from the previous night, Chris Pincher offered his resignation last Thursday. On Friday, Number 10 said the Prime Minister was not aware of any specific allegations against Mr Pincher at the time he was promoted in February. And when questioned, ministers had nothing to say.
Whip and others will be looking at all of the surrounding context of this and then deciding which way to go forward.
Even through the weekend, they continue to defend the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister has not been aware of specific allegations against Chris Pincher.
And yesterday, the line remained the same.
I've been given a cast-iron categorical assurance that the Prime Minister was not aware of any complaint.
But today in the Commons, the government was forced to come and explain, and there was another change to the position.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and it's a pleasure to appear before you and this House on this important matter.
The Prime Minister was personally informed about these allegations, and yet he was either negligent or complicit. When will this minister stop defending the indefensible and say enough is enough?
Last week, when fresh allegations arose, the Prime Minister did not immediately recall the conversation in late 2019 about this incident. As soon as he was reminded, the Number 10 press office corrected their public lines.
And that brought criticism from those who are not exactly the usual suspects on the Tory backbenches.
How does it help if our own political leaders in all political parties finish up promoting people with the wrong attitudes and the wrong behaviours?
Can he confirm if the allegations made back in 2019 were of sexual assault? And if they were, and they were upheld and apologised, why the police weren't involved, why he wasn't sacked at the time, never mind given another job?
But what is the truth? The ever-changing narrative means questions over the Prime Minister's judgment are now only growing louder. Shihab Khan, ITV News, Westminster.
And we'll have the very latest on this breaking story later on in the programme. But of course, you can keep up with the latest developments on our website. Just go to itv.com/news. News. OK, let's go to the United States now, where disturbing details have emerged about the young gunman thought to have killed 6 people at an Independence Day parade. The suspect, named by police as Robert E. Crimo III, posted videos on YouTube with violent messages and images ahead of the shootings. He's now in custody as the country reels from yet another mass shooting, as our US correspondent Emma Murphy reports.
After the terror and after the deaths, the end was surprisingly calm.
It's a shooter. Yeah.
Robert Crimo, the 21-year-old suspected of firing on a holiday parade, ordered at gunpoint from the small silver car he was driving. Not for him, the bloody end that had been inflicted on others. In the hours before, he was America's most wanted man. The latest, certainly not the last name, to be added to this country's shaming roll call of mass killer suspects.
We do believe Crimo pre-planned this attack for several weeks. He brought a high-powered rifle to this parade. He accessed the roof of a business via a fire escape ladder and began opening fire on the innocent Independence Day celebration goers. During the attack, Crimo was dressed in women's clothing, and investigators do believe he did this to conceal his facial tattoos and his identity and help him during the escape with the other people who were fleeing the chaos.
This is their suspect. With a legally bought high-powered rifle, he's accused of firing from a rooftop into an Independence Day parade. Illinois has some of America's strictest gun laws, but they made no difference.
For a second, everybody froze. Literally like time stood still. And then we looked down the street right over there, and we saw the crowd running toward us and screaming. And it was like mass hysteria. And people were just running in droves across the railroad tracks.
This is Robert Crimo in videos he posted online. At least one appears to depict a classroom scene where, dressed in tactical clothing, he wraps himself in the flag. That he's from the Highland Park community has added to the sense of shock.
It breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart. I see this picture, and through the tattoos, I see the little boy. It's heartbreaking. I don't know what got him to this point.
It is a question that has been asked of so many others, with different names, in different towns, but as a result of very similar tragedy. Emma Murphy, ITV News in the United States.
British Airways has cancelled 1,500 more summer flights, affecting tens of thousands of passengers at Heathrow and Gatwick. The airline said that regrettably, more reductions were needed to avoid disruption. Well, our business editor Joel Hills is over at Heathrow for us tonight. Joel, this is going to be a blow to passengers. So how will they know they've been affected?
Well, these cancellations will affect more than 200,000 passengers booked to fly short haul with British Airways during July. If you are one of them, you should know by now. BA is reaching out via email to say sorry, of course, and to try and find alternative flights. Full refunds will be on offer. Compensation, note, will not. British Airways had hoped to operate 80% of its normal pre-COVID timetable this summer, but it has run into huge difficulties with staff shortages. It cancelled 10,000 flights back in May. A further 1,500 are going now. It's doing this to avoid the sort of disruption that we saw, you'll remember, back at half term when it became absolutely clear that some airlines were struggling to deliver on the tickets that they sold. Now, in BA's case, it made 10,000 people redundant during the pandemic, at a time during which it was losing at one stage £10 million, 20 million pounds a day. It has struggled really ever since with recruitment. It's got shortages of cabin crew, shortages of ground staff. To make matters worse, of course, check-in staff here at Heathrow voted to take industrial action. This is not just a BA problem. There are labour shortage across aviation, but when it comes to delays and cancellations, the evidence does suggest that British Airways is one of the worst offenders.
All right, Joel, thank you. West Midlands Police has launched a criminal investigation into claims Indian fans were racially abused at Edgbaston cricket ground. It happened yesterday as England played India in a test match. Former Yorkshire cricketer Azim Rafiq said the allegations were difficult to read. Rebecca Barry has more.
Jubilation for England with a remarkable win against India in the 5th test. But events off the cricket field have tarnished this. The police investigating allegations of racism within the crowds. Fans at Edgbaston yesterday described the worst abuse ever experienced. Racist behaviour reported to the stewards but no response, some left in tears. This anti-racism campaigner was at the match and was verbally abused afterwards.
I really believe that my visibility as a Muslim woman who wears a headscarf or hijab was one of the triggers for that racist man to be using the language that he was using and applying it in my direction. And I think it's appalling that in one of the most multiracial cities in the whole of the United Kingdom, Birmingham, this is happening in 2022.
West Midlands Police say they've launched a criminal investigation into reports of racist, abusive behaviour here yesterday. They're now asking anyone who heard racist language or has videos to get in touch. These allegations, the last thing that cricket needs right now.
The pain that I went through for them few months.
Former cricketer Azim Rafiq has condemned the claims his experience of racism eventually led to resignations and promises of reform in the game. The ECB says we are very concerned to hear reports of racist abuse at the test match. We're in contact with colleagues at Edgbaston who'll investigate. There is no place for racism in cricket. For fans leaving the match today, it dampened the mood.
It upsets me. It is something that we walk into matches half expecting. If you see it, then it is there. It is there.
Bosses at Edgbaston insist those responsible will be banned. The game, it seems, still has work to do. Rebecca Barry, ITV News, Birmingham.
There's plenty more to come on the ITV Evening News. We'll have all the latest updates from Westminster after that dramatic cabinet resignation, 2 of which earlier in the past hour. Plus, the Sydney floods that are threatening the homes of 50,000 people. And the mother questioning the justice system after the teenager who killed her son was cleared of murder.
You see a person have a knife like that, chasing down someone, and you say that is manslaughter? It seems like Dea-John life wasn't matter to none of them. And it's true, Dea-John black. That's why Dea-John life don't matter.
And it's a really powerful interview. That's coming up just after 7. So join us again after the break. Welcome back. 5 teenagers have been convicted for killing a father of 2 after joking how he looks like TV presenter Ant McPartlin. Danny Humble was attacked as he made his way home with his partner in Cramlington in Northumberland last year. He was beaten to the floor, repeatedly kicked and left with catastrophic head injury. Greg Steele is at Newcastle Crown Court for us. Greg, this is just a horrific case, isn't it?
Absolutely. The 5 teenagers convicted, though, had been laughing and joking at points over the 4 days that they were waiting for the jury to bring their verdicts back in. It was almost as if they didn't appreciate the seriousness of what they'd done until it was too late. Danny Humble had been enjoying a meal and a night out and a drink with his girlfriend for the first time since lockdown restrictions eased last May. He met his killers by chance in an underpass. It's still not clear exactly why that joke about him looking like one of Ant or Dex suddenly turned into a much darker mood. But what is clear is the extent of his injuries, killed effectively within an attack just lasting 15 seconds. After today's verdicts, his father spoke movingly about what haunts him still about all this.
It's unbearable to think that we'll never ever see his face again, and we will never ever see his dazzling $6 million smile. What we do see in our quiet moments of solitude are the faces of those responsible.
Well, the judge in this case has warned the teenagers to expect a significant loss of liberty. One of them kicked out and swore as he was led away to the cells. They'll be sentenced in September.
OK, Greg, thank you. A High Court has ruled that the Christian-focused religious education taught at primary schools in Northern Ireland is unlawful. It's after a legal challenge by a father and daughter who argued that the current syllabus violated education entitlements protected by the European Convention on Human Rights. Unite Trade Union says Royal Mail managers will go on strike this month in a dispute over job cuts and pay. More than 2,000 are expected to take part in industrial action from the 20th of July to the 22nd of July. Unite has warned that it will immediately affect postal and parcel services across the country. And the owner of pet food brands Whiskas, Dreamies and Pedigree has its deliveries to Tesco in the latest pricing round to hit the supermarket chain. It comes after shelves of Heinz baked beans and ketchup became bare, after Tesco stood firm against planned price rises from the food manufacturer. Rising COVID cases means face masks are back at hospitals in Wales for both staff and visitors. One hospital has gone a step further and reintroduced a ban on visitors. COVID infections in Wales are now at their highest since April. Our Wales reporter Reid Williams is at the Princess of Wales Hospital in Bridgend for us. So Reid, what's been the reaction to this?
Well, not shock, I don't think, Charlene. I think many of us will know someone with COVID at the moment, or maybe even feeling pretty rough with it ourselves. Cases are going up significantly, 53% higher compared to last week. Now, the good news is the vast majority of people testing positive for COVID in hospitals, 88%, are being primarily treated for something else. But it's all adding to the pressure, isn't it? And a big part of that pressure is the number of Welsh NHS staff off sick. The First Minister, Mark Drakeford, told the Senate today that 1,500 Welsh NHS staff are not in work with COVID at the moment, with another 600 isolating. It's all putting pressure on these hospitals and has led to these new rules. Withybush in Pembrokeshire, as you say, has gone a step further, banning all visitors, while the Aneurin Bevan Health Board in the east of the country has asked people to stay away from its hospitals unless absolutely necessary due to what it calls extreme pressures. It's certainly causing a headache for health bosses on top of huge backlogs and waiting lists, Charlene's causing misery as well, of course, for Welsh patients.
Indeed, Reid, thanks very much. Emergency services have made more than 100 rescues overnight as floods deluge Sydney in Australia. 50,000 people have been warned they may have to abandon their homes after 20 centimetres of rain, that's 8 inches, fell in 24 hours. Our correspondent Debbie Edward has more.
When it started raining, it didn't stop. A year's worth fell in just 3 days, leaving several villages on the outskirts of Sydney submerged. Just the treetops and rooftops left visible in some of the worst hit areas. 50,000 people were told to evacuate overnight, and the emergency services carried out more than 100 rescues.
And it usually takes a week of constant rain, and we still don't flood. So this was unbelievable.
Just a few years ago, New South Wales faced a severe drought. Now it's floods that are in the extreme. Torrential downpours, described as once-in-a-generation weather events, have become a regular occurrence.
We've been here 25 years, and this year it's been the worst. We've had 3 major floods in 3 years, and it's just been shocking. Yeah.
The state government has declared this a natural disaster. Thousands of homes are cut off and without power. For many, by boat was the only way to escape, with whatever prized possessions they could. A break in the rain allowed some to start clearing up the damage. As they were warned, more is to come.
This event is far from over. Please don't be complacent. Wherever you are, please be careful.
Heavy rain is forecast to continue in the coming days. Australia is braced for another battle against nature. Debbie Edward, ITV News.
Well, you're watching the ITV Evening News. Before Emmerdale, we'll have more from Westminster after those two dramatic cabinet resignations tonight, just an hour ago. That's Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak. So can Boris Johnson survive as Prime Minister? Also ahead.
Just walk over to it.
Tribute to the pioneer.
And told them to buy me a drink.
Tributes to the pioneer of stage and screen after the death of Mona Hammond, aged 91. Cheering on Cam Norrie. Can he keep British hopes alive at Wimbledon? Countdown to the Euros. So what chance of home nation glory?
And I'll be finding out why the harvest is starting early this year and why some people are very happy about it. I'll have the full forecast later in the programme.
But first, a family's call for justice after their 14-year-old son was killed in a racist attack in Birmingham. Dea-John Reid was a talented footballer. He left his home in May last year to go for a game, but never came home. A court heard he'd been hunted through the streets by a gang hurling racial abuse, one of whom stabbed him through the heart. 5 people stood trial for Dea-John's murder. 4 were acquitted, and the 5th, the 15-year-old boy who knifed him, was found guilty of manslaughter. He was given a 6.5-year sentence, leaving Dea-John's family feeling cheated. They told ITV News the system had let them down and that if the jury had been more ethnically diverse, the verdicts would have been different. They spoke to our Midlands correspondent, Ben Chapman.
That day, when I hear that Dea-John passed, I tell you, I feel like I was going to die. Dea-John don't deserve to die like that. He didn't do anybody anything.
For the mother of Dea-John Reid, the pain of losing her son is made worse still by what his family see as the absence of justice that followed in the courts.
I sit the 6 weeks there with my mom and we watch the video of everything. I literally see the person run and stab my brother in the heart. And you say it's not murder, it makes no sense.
Yeah, easy. Dea-John was a talented young footballer who wanted to train to become a dentist. He was just 14 years old when he was stabbed to death in broad daylight. CCTV shows him being chased through the streets, hunted down, in the words of the prosecutor, by a group of white men and boys who racially abused him. He's caught up to by another 14-year-old boy, masked and brandishing a large kitchen knife. At his trial, he claimed the stabbing seconds later was in self-defence. The jury acquitted him of murder, convicting him of manslaughter. The others involved walked free.
What do you think about the verdict that was passed?
Did something went wrong somewhere? You see a person have a knife like that, chasing down someone, and you say that is manslaughter? It seems like Dea-John life wasn't matter to none of them. And it's true, Dea-John black, that's why Dea-John life don't matter.
They say the jury at Birmingham Crown Court had just one member from an ethnic minority background. The verdict meant the killer received a 6.5-year sentence. Dea-John's family say the system let them down and needs to change.
We need the jury, we need them to mix. You understand? No pure white, nor no pure Asian, we need a mixed minority.
And you think that will make a difference?
Yes, it will. Because if it was mixed, I feel it wouldn't go like this.
The family is now campaigning alongside this community activist for a new law requiring juries are ethnically diverse in cases where race is an issue.
There's no evidence that race played a part in the jury's verdict, so why is this so important?
Because if people are judged by their peers, so your peers are the people that you live with, and that jury did not reflect Birmingham. So if someone uses the N-word, a juror who is white may not understand the serious implications of those statements.
We put the family's calls to this senior barrister, but he believes the way that juries are chosen means they're already the fairest element of the criminal justice system.
I think it's important for juries to be diverse wherever possible. All our jurors are in fact drawn out of a hat, and it means that, broadly speaking, we get fair juries and they are balanced.
But that's little comfort for this family, who continue to suffer from a belief that the system didn't care about their son and they want his death to matter.
I told him he's going to do something great, and if he can leave this for other kids to come and they don't have to worry about going in a courtroom and getting judged because of the colour of your skin, you won't get justice, and he wouldn't want that.
At rallies this weekend, they hope to enlist the support of those who last year turned out in shock at Dea-John's killing. A spokesman for the Ministry of Justice called it a despicable crime, but said studies have shown juries deliver fair results irrespective of their ethnic makeup. This teenager's family will never believe that. Ben Chapman, ITV News, Birmingham.
OK, let's get an update on tonight's dramatic political developments. Boris Johnson's position as Prime Minister is under serious threat tonight after the resignation of 2 senior cabinet ministers. It follows claims the PM failed to tell the truth when he knew about allegations against former whip Chris Pincher. Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid both said they have lost confidence in the Prime Minister. Sunak, the former Chancellor, said as he resigned, the public rightly expects governments to be conducted properly, competently and seriously. I recognise this may be my last ministerial job, but I believe these standards are worth fighting for. Well, let's go straight to our political editor, Robert Peston's 2 very senior, very well-known, very big names in the Cabinet. Where do we stand right now regarding Boris Johnson as Prime Minister?
Well, certainly this is Boris Johnson's biggest test in respect of whether he can survive. As I said earlier, hard to think of 2 bigger names in his government, 2 more important jobs. It's also what they have said. They both say they have lost confidence in the Prime Minister's integrity. Lack of moral purpose is what they are signalling as being their big concern about him. And in the case actually of the Chancellor, and this will resonate with lots of Tory MPs, he also has made it clear he doesn't have confidence in the Prime Minister's approach to the most severe economic crisis that this country has faced for at least a decade. And I thought this actually from Sajid Javid sort of summed it up. I mean, he said the country needs a strong and principled Conservative Party, and the party is bigger than any one individual. I served you loyally and as a friend. This is the sort of killer line, but we all serve the country first. When made to choose between those loyalties, there can only be one answer. Now, some of his cabinet colleagues disagree. ITV News understands that Michael Gove, also the Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, will not be resigning. The Home Secretary Priti Patel has signalled she will not be resigning. There are still a number of other ministers we are waiting to hear from. And I have talked to a number of very senior Tories. They say they think the Prime Minister, they think, don't put it more strongly than that, will try to cling on. They think he will try to appoint replacements for the Health Secretary and the Chancellor, but nobody that I've spoken to thinks that he will survive for very long. Weeks or months is what they say, and some think he could go even sooner than that.
OK, Robert, thanks very much for that. OK, away from politics now, and the Women's Euros kicks off tomorrow at Old Trafford with England taking on Austria. As hosts, the Lionesses know it's a golden opportunity to win their first ever major trophy, and their supporters have high hopes too. Our sports editor Steve Scott looks at the teams and their fans' final preparations.
There's patriotism, and then there's the Kirby estate in Bermondsey, dressed to the nines, supporting the Lionesses as they set out to end England's agonising, decades-long wait for a major trophy. Tickets for their games are now impossible to come by, so fan parks are as close as many will get to this Euros summer party. 75,000 lucky ones will be inside Old Trafford tomorrow night as England's campaign gets underway. A 75,000 capacity crowd at Old Trafford is something the Lionesses have never experienced before. The question is, will that inspire the team towards something special, or will expectations weigh heavily on them? Opening a school pitch in Windsor, Kelly Smith, veteran of more than 100 international appearances, is confident they will excel and take the game to a new level.
The England team, they've got a real platform now to go showcase our game and our national team, and I'm confident they'll go out and deliver and get more fans to come and watch the games.
With 500,000 tickets sold, the FA's boss of women's football believes the tournament can help reverse a dip in interest in the Super League.
They've pretty well got back now and flatlined, but what we hope is that this tournament will really drive that again. So we'll track down these 500,000 people plus and hopefully encourage them to go along to the Super League and Championship games.
This evening, the squad got a small taste of what's to come, stretching their legs on tomorrow night's stage. Their unbeaten boss watching on, typically determined.
It would be really strange if we wouldn't be excited. So, but what we're talking about is train well, play as a team, and play the best game we can. And well, that's in general what we talk about all the time.
There are 5 teams in this tournament sitting above England in the world rankings, but of course none can feed off the energy of a home crowd, which is why the Lionesses are among the favourites. It's an opportunity this squad will never get again. Steve Scott, ITV News, Manchester.
The Duchess of Cornwall has become the latest cover star of Country Life magazine, with a special guest editor capturing the shot even. She asked the Duchess of Cambridge to take the photos as part of events to mark her 75th birthday later this month, as well as the magazine's 125th anniversary. And a copy of The Last Supper, painted by a student of Leonardo da Vinci, has become the latest work to be targeted by climate protesters. Activists glued their hands to the piece at the Royal Academy in London. 3 men and 2 women were arrested on suspicion of criminal damage. Excuse me. To Wimbledon now, where Britain's Cameron Norrie is trying to get through to his first Grand Slam semi-final. His quarter-final match against David Goffin has gone all the way to 5 sets. Oh, excuse me. Chloe Keedy has been soaking up the atmosphere at Wimbledon and joins us now. And Chloe, it has been quite a match, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely nail-biting stuff between Cameron Norrie and David Goffin. This final set has been neck and neck, but I can tell you Goffin is 1 game up. It's just gone 5-4. But pretty much every time Cameron Norrie gets a point now, you hear this tremendous cheer go up from court 1. But it really is going right to the wire here at Wimbledon.
There was an air of optimism in Wimbledon this morning. They came and they queued in their thousands. But for the Brits at least, today was all about one man.
Norrie. He's the man. He's going to do it today.
Touching wood, I think he'll do really well, and we're all behind him to do well.
He certainly epitomises the British hard work and perseverance attitude, and yeah, he's got a good chance.
Norrie, I've bet my whole house on you. I've got all my savings on this match. Please do it for me. Please, I need this. My kids are depending on it.
So more than a bit of pressure on the 26-year-old as he walked out onto court 1 for his first ever Grand Slam quarter-final. And with thousands watching on from just outside, it looked like it might finally be getting to him. His Belgian opponent David Goffin took the first set 6-3.
And Cam Norrie's going to have to try and change something, find something in court number 1.
But Norrie settled down in the second to even the score.
And there it is! He's dug it out, he's seen off the dangers.
Goffin battled back to win the third. But with royalty and tennis royalty watching from the stands,
One more chance.
Norrie pulled it back again to take it to a nail-biting 5th set.
There will be 1 set to decide a place in the semi-finals of Wimbledon.
Waiting in the semi-final is defending champion Novak Djokovic. But the 20-year-old Italian Yannick Sinner made him sweat for it today.
Djokovic is falling apart at the seams a little here. He's
taking the first 2 sets.
How about that?
Before Djokovic fought back to win it in 5.
Again, still a match, Djokovic.
This was just the latest reminder of how exciting, how unpredictable this tournament can be.
Chloe, before you go, I just want to ask about some developments off the court regarding Nick Kyrgios.
Yes, that's right. So Nick Kyrgios has been doing well here at Wimbledon. Yesterday he made it through to the quarter-finals and he's been back here training today. But this morning Australian police confirmed that he has been summoned to court next month to face a charge of common assault in relation to an incident that took place in December last year. His barrister reportedly told an Australian newspaper that it was in the context of a domestic relationship. Authorities here at Wimbledon say they can't comment on ongoing legal proceedings, but they have confirmed that he is still scheduled to play his quarter-final match tomorrow.
OK, thanks very much, Chloe. Well, we're heading to a short break now, but when we come back...
Hi, Desmond!
So is me. What you doing here?
So what kind of greeting is that?
We'll look back at the brilliant life of the pioneering actor Mona Hammond.
And today it's all about farming and more specifically about thatching and what has caused the crops to be ready so early this year. I'll have all that and your forecast in a short while.
Plus, of course, we'll go back to Westminster for all the latest developments there. That's in just a moment. Welcome back. And now it's time for a look at the weather. And Becca Manton is in Clavering in Essex for us tonight. And Becky, harvest time is coming early for some, isn't it?
Yes, that's absolutely right, Charlene. The weather, of course, always has a huge impact on farming. And this year, it turns out, even more so than ever. The fields looking golden and beautiful far earlier than normal this year. And it's all down to the weather. Some parts of the UK, especially here in East Anglia, have seen no measurable rain for weeks at a time. And then, of course, we had that intense, hot, sunny weather a couple of weeks ago. That combination has resulted in the earliest harvest that many people can remember, and some people are very happy about that.
But the last couple of months we haven't seen so much rain, so it looks like harvest is going to be quite a bit earlier this year because of the dry periods we've had. Hopefully we'll have nice hot sunny weather for the next few weeks because harvest will start in about 10 days time. Hopefully the sun will stay out for a fortnight so we can cut it, bring it all in nice and dry, and then we'll have a really good crop for thatching straw for the next 12 months.
Well, of course, I do like to be a people pleaser and a thatcher pleaser as well. So I think James is going to be happy. We are likely to be seeing that harvest starting without a hitch because, of course, as you'll have heard, things are going to be settling down and warming up really right across the UK, apart from the very far northern northwestern parts of the UK over the next few days. It's not an entirely smooth process, but yes, we do have drier, warmer weather, even hot weather on the cards. Let's have a look at the full forecast.
With sizzling temperatures, there's a chance this feel-good weather will continue. Heinz Beans Burgers sponsors ITV National Weather.
So it's sunny, dry and increasingly warm across southeastern parts over the next few days. Across the north, looking rather more unsettled for you, I'm afraid. We are going to be seeing increasingly unsettled conditions with rain on and off. And it's going to be a fairly breezy, fairly cloudy sort of story for you as well. But hang in there, things do improve as we look ahead to the next few days. So let's get the detail then for this evening and overnight. Well, we are going to be seeing a fairly dry and settled picture across much of the UK, but towards the north, Atlantic rain-bearing frontal systems start heading in across Northern Ireland and then into Western Scotland, northern parts of Wales, northern England, bringing rain for you. Some heavier bursts at times, but it's mostly light and patchy, and it's going to be quite a breezy sort of night for you as well. Elsewhere, though, I think from a temperature point of view, it's milder than last night. And then we look ahead to tomorrow. And as you can imagine, we are still going to be seeing quite a slow start to the day across those more northern areas. A noticeable breeze as well, perhaps gusting up to around 40 miles an hour for you. The rain tending to move eastwards off the scene, but it hangs in there for some, particularly, I'm afraid, for you, Western Scotland once again. Elsewhere, the cloud coming and going, but reasonable long stretches of sunshine and temperatures into the mid-20s. And then briefly on to Thursday, we are expecting it to be a much better picture across northern parts where you've really been suffering under the cloud and rain. A fairly chilly northerly breeze for a while, largely dry though, and again temperatures at best into the mid-20s, so it is starting to warm up.
Heinz Beans Burgers sponsors ITV National Weather.
So, as I say, a little bit stop-start over the next few days. So expecting a fairly cloudy picture for everyone on Friday, but really starting to warm up for many over the weekend. Dry as well, no real measurable rain in the forecast. And of course, as we know, everyone loves a happy farmer and a happy Thatcher. Back to you in the studio.
Yes, they do. Thanks very much, Becky. Fond memories and warm tributes to the trailblazing actor Mona Hammond, who died at the age of 91. She helped lead the way for black actors with regular appearances in the pioneering sitcom Desmond's, and in later years she was better known for playing Blossom in EastEnders. Mona also co-founded the groundbreaking theatre company Tallowa, which performed versions of plays written for white actors. Geraint Vincent looks back at her life and legacy.
Hi, Desmond.
So is me.
Whenever Auntie Susu turned up at Desmond's barbershop, trouble wasn't far behind. But so too came all the brilliance that Mona Hammond brought to British screens, all the way from her native Jamaica.
You see how you become Englishman now? Shake one's hand and peck one on the forehead. Whatever happened to hug up and kiss up and ting when you greet?
She was a very powerful actress. She was a great television and film actress, but she was a very powerful stage actress as well. Her generosity as somebody supporting young actors, and her joy as well she loved it when she heard that somebody was doing well.
The arc of Hammond's career was extraordinary. She arrived in the UK in the 1950s to work at a firm of architects. But after evening classes, she won a place at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. The trail she blazed, she helped others to follow, founding a theatre company to provide more opportunities for black actors.
This was a time when it was thought that black actors couldn't have lead roles in the classics, shall we say. I think Mona, as well as the other founders, pushed against that, and they decided that we will show that we are every bit as capable of playing any role. Thank you, Mona. Thank you for being great shoulders for us to stand on.
Well, how do I look?
Later in her career, of course, Hammond became a mainstay of the EastEnders cast as Blossom Jackson. She was a matriarch on Albert Square, and she was a guiding light to so many who came after her on stage and screen.
Tributes to the utterly brilliant actor Mona Hammond there. Look, we've got a couple of minutes before the end of the programme, so let's go straight to our political editor, Robert Peston, for a final thought on our top story, that the incredible bombshell evening that Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, is currently having. Can you sum up what exactly has gone on in the last hour, Peston?
Well, you may be able to hear there's a marching band playing in the background, and that seems sort of appropriate because this is a day of history. The resignation of the Chancellor and the Health Secretary, and what's significant about both of them is that both have said they're putting the country first, and to an extent their colleagues will believe them because neither are regarded as credible candidates to replace Boris Johnson. In fact, Rishi Sunak has said he expects this to be his last job in government, which is a pretty serious thing to say. Now, let's just remember everything that Boris Johnson has gone through recently. More than 40% of his MPs voted that they had no confidence in him and that they wanted to go only a few weeks ago. Then after that, he lost two seats, two MPs, including an incredibly safe seat in the west of England. When I talk to his colleagues, they say it's not a question of whether Boris Johnson goes in the next weeks and months. It is whether he chooses to go soon or whether they take action to force him out. But everyone I have spoken to says they do not expect him to survive this blow.
OK, we shall see. Robert, thanks very much for your updates tonight. Right, Julie, we'll have the very latest from Westminster on News at 10. But just before we go, some good news. Cameron Norrie has just won his quarter-final match in 5 sets. So from all of us here, bye-bye.